I mentioned that I would speak periodically about some of the projects. This is actually a great time to talk about some of the Accelerator projects. And so with that, I'd like to go back and revisit something that Mark said earlier. He said that, and those that were at the Global Summit got to witness the announcement of the OAM project, or Open Accelerator Module project, in March. Project with a specification that was being co-authored by Microsoft, Facebook, and Baidu out of China. We had a tremendous number of people that wanted to get involved in that, and the scope of that project has really evolved since then. It's now called the Open Accelerator Infrastructure Project, recognizing that it's much more than a simple module. Just to give you an idea of the companies that are involved, here's just a quick list of some of the folks that are involved in various aspects of this project. It has evolved and morphed into many different work streams. For example, we did have we're actually putting together an overall specification for the architecture. We did the OAM, the module specification. We actually now have a universal baseboard specification. There's a host interface board that interfaces to that baseboard. Obviously, power is a concern, and so we want to have a power distribution scheme as well. That can be packaged into a tray for modularity. Security control and hardware management aspects need to be taken into consideration, so there's a work group defining that. Also a work group looking at cooling and mechanical as we go and deploy that at scale in the data center, and not only at scale in an enclosure, but scale across the data center where you're connecting different enclosures together. So again, it's really opened up a lot of different sub-projects and work streams. Let's see, there's a couple. So this is the best time for me because I'm kind of like I'm back in school and I get to do a little show and tell. So I mentioned that the OEM spec was released, and there's a universal baseboard spec that was developed. I'm going to show you what that universal baseboard looks like, and I actually have an OEM module. So let me hold this up. I'll hold it off here so you can zoom in on it. Okay. This is actually a early OEM module. The accelerator here, and then the pin-out and power delivery around it, and the packaging to hold the heatsink. There's actually 4 companies that have this module, prototypes of this module available today, and Whitney Zhao will talk about that later on today. So I won't steal her thunder and mention who they are. This is the universal baseboard. This specification was co-authored with 4 different companies that are involved in the project. And this is the first baseboard. It's designed by Inspur, and they actually have a system out in their booth today that houses this board. So, pretty awesome. In this case, here's the modules are down here. I've populated it with 4 modules. On top of those modules are the actual heat sinks. And just as a reference, there's 4 more sockets up here that are unpopulated. So this baseboard would hold 8 of these accelerator modules. There's prototype samples available. The other thing I want to announce is that Inspur released a press release this morning announcing the availability of a development system next year. So you'll be able to see this board in action in a full enclosure and be able to look for development systems in the future. I did mention that it was being developed in conjunction with other supplier partners that have participated in this, in actually authoring this design. So shout out to Hive and Inspur, Inventec, and ZT Systems for their support of the project. Very good. Thank you, CMAC. You'll hear a lot more about this at 1 o'clock. I think we're doing a lightning round, and Whitney and CMAC project leads are going to talk about it, and then we have a whole session on Friday. It's either Friday morning or Friday afternoon, again, talk about the OAI project.